Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Agents of Inclusion podcast, brought to you by Special Olympics and Odyssey. I'm JR of the JR Sport Brief Show on CBS Sports Radio. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? New editions with new inspirational athletes drop every Wednesday. Momentarily, we're going to hear from someone who isn't just an athlete, but a poet, a writer, a global messenger. She's proving people wrong, and quite simply, she's just a superhero. Let's go out to the Bay Area and meet Amanda Harrinauth. So now we can get right into everything. Amanda, first of all, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Not a problem at all. I guess the first question is, what is your role as a global messenger and a health messenger? What do you do?
Yeah, so I'm a global ambassador for Special Olympics. So my team is for Northern California, but officially Tim Shriver actually said that I was with these one of the voices for the Special Olympics movement. So I guess I'm kind of part of the movement. So what I do as a global ambassador is I give speeches, and I started that in Northern California, but I've really honestly gotten to give speeches with Special Olympics Maryland's program. I've done some things with Washington. I've just had a lot of fun. So even though I'm based in Northern California, I've been all over the place with Special Olympics. So I've done videos in regards to health. I have lobbied Congress. I've done a bunch of interviews with other athletes who have podcasts from the various 50 states. It's been a blast, such a blast.
And I know you've been working with Special Olympics since 2018. What initially got you involved? How did this relationship come to be?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. So I actually have a condition called retinopathy of prematurity. Unfortunately, at the time, I was dealing with a detached retina. And I was feeling a little, upset. So my mom found an advertisement in the local paper, and they were like, come join the Special Olympics. It was their local track meet. So I sat in the bleachers and I got to join the fun, because, when you're a spectator for the Special Olympics, you have just as much fun. But what really got my heart into it was hearing the Special Olympics oath, which is, as we all know, let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. And that is what sold me. I was like, I want to do this. How do I sign up? So turning a bad situation into something super positive.
Did you have any reservations about joining initially when you heard about it, or were you just all in from the beginning?
My only reservation about joining is I've never ever been sports inclined. So to hear that you actually have to play a sport to be part of the Special Olympics, I was like, I'm not good at this. And this, I've seen several of my friends, oh, what sports do you play? Oh, I play soccer. I swim. I play basketball. And for myself, being diagnosed with hydrocephalus, which is water on the brain, I can't afford to get hit in the head. So that leaves a lot of these sports, soccer, basketball, not necessarily swimming, but soccer, basketball. So all of those contact sports kind of leaves me out, because that would not be, a good idea if I end up getting hit in the head. So
Sure.
It was limited choices with the sports, but that's okay, because I discovered something even better being a global ambassador.
Awesome. So what sports did you initially play? What did you get into?
Yes. So I initially played bocce ball, and I bowled for a little while.
And so what's your favorite part about being a global messenger and just being a part of the family of Special Olympics?
Honestly, what I'm doing right now, this. interviewing, getting the story, and not just the story of Special Olympics, but the heart of Special Olympics out there. This is the heart of the organization. You know, getting the opportunity to hear the stories of other Special Olympics athletes and realize that you're not alone.
And we're going to get into your poetry and writing. We're going to do that in a few minutes. But before we get there, I love, and I've heard some of your older interviews, what you said about like proving people wrong. Can you talk to us about that? Why is that something that you're passionate about?
Yeah, because society labels us, and they label us and they try and put us in these boxes. But when you're in a particular I guess situation like mine, like for instance being a double minority, also being a female, and then also having multiple disabilities, it becomes this struggle to say, where do I belong? And when you ask yourself, where do you belong? It's proving that you've earned the right to be there. So I love proving people wrong, because it's just that's what makes me smile, especially if you're, you know, somebody who told me I couldn't do it in the first place. I want to be able to prove you wrong. I want to be able to say, you know what? I did it. You told me I wouldn't be able to, and I just proved you wrong and made you look horrible.
I love it. What does inclusivity mean to you? How would you define that?
Include everybody. Show that we all matter. It doesn't matter, you know, your blood type. It doesn't matter, you know, the color of your skin. These things don't matter. We all count. We all come together, and we all are here on this planet to do a very, very specific work. And ultimately, I think that work is taking the unique skills that you were gifted and finding ways to make the world a better place.
What got you into writing? You have published works, you have poetry out. What got you into writing? Is this something that you were doing as a little girl? Or is this something that you started to do as you got older?
So growing up, like my sister and I would keep diaries and journals and things like that. But growing up with like dyslexia, this made writing painful for me. So this wasn't really something that I looked forward to. But fast forward to 2016, I received a diagnosis of autism. And that shifted my perspective. I said, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit here and watch really sad YouTube videos of individuals with the same condition who just sit at home all day because their parents don't know what to do with them? Or am I going to rise up and claim autism as my superpower? So it took me a little while, but I decided to claim autism as my superpower. And I started writing. Although I attended college, I was just taking, you know, English courses just to fulfill the requirements. This wasn't something that I was like, oh, I'm not going to sit here and take a poetry class and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to. So I just sat down and just started writing. I have tablets all over the place. I've notebooks all over the place. I don't know if you're a fan of the Waltons or if you've ever seen that show, but the lead character, John Boy, is also a writer, and he has tablets all over the place. And I said, his room looks just like mine. Tablets and ink pens and just ready to go.
Well, you're an inspiration just on your perspective and how you've been able to turn art. What advice would you give to anybody? I don't care what your level of ability is. What advice would you give to anyone just looking at challenges and feeling down? Because you certainly going through the process of overcoming some, and I'm sure you still do it every day, like all of us.
Right. You know, you can do it. Don't give up. You know, that's I know that sounds a little bit generic, but for individuals out there who are on the autism spectrum like myself, when you hear the word autism, don't let that hinder you from doing whatever it is that you want to do. I think there's such a negative connotation with the word autism that we run and hide when we hear it. We are, you know, whether we have autism ourselves or whether our parents hear it or caregivers, because we, for whatever reason, don't want to deal with this diagnosis that's in the medical books that looks I would say it looks frightening on paper, but it looks wonderful out there when you see autism in action.
We certainly see it. We see the action and everything that you're doing. Through your poetry, you've gotten words and recognition from President Biden. You mentioned Tim Shriver, the chairman of Special Olympics. You've gotten those words. How did that feel with all of the works and the poems that you've published? How do you feel about that recognition?
I feel so blessed, honestly. You know, glory to God, because without him, I wouldn't be allowed to do any of this. So I feel honored and blessed. I love being able to encourage this community, saying that you can do anything if you know, honestly set your mind to it. Now, one of the biggest honors that I've received is she actually passed away about 3 weeks ago. Is Judy Heumann was a huge supporter of mine. She was a very good friend of mine and loved my poetry as well. So what we would do, what I would do on a regular basis is I would send her poems pretty regularly, and she would tell me that they're beautiful and I can't wait for you to just continue to write. And so to be able to share a space with somebody like that is absolutely, you know, wonderful. So I'm taking this opportunity to continue the legacy that she began so many years ago.
When you think about the entirety of your life, who are some other inspirations that have encouraged you to just keep going? Or is family, friends, or who stands out to you in that regard?
Yeah, no, definitely, you know, family and friends. You know, my parents definitely is like my dad coming from Trinidad to the US at the age of 10, you know, and you know, his family, you know, making it in America, and you know, my mom just being, you know, African American, you know, with the civil rights movement. My sister, who recently just became a doctor, also had to face, you know, opposition just based on the color of her skin. So really, honestly, my family, but I'm really inspired by anybody who is dismantling stereotypes, period. So I have a lot of role models, a lot of mentors. I love people who just prove others wrong. Like, get out of my way.
When you're not sharing this message and you're not writing poetry, what are some other things that you're interested in? Are there any other hobbies that you like, or movies, TV, music?
I am a huge Disney princess fan. Like, I think the Disney princesses own the Disney franchise. Move over, Mickey.
Do you have a favorite? So I'm not as Disney princess inclined. I could think about, let me try. See, I'm going to stink at this. There's Princess Tiana, right?
Yes.
There is Cinderella.
Yes.
Was Alice a princess in Wonderland? Is that Disney? Sorry. No, see,
she's not a princess, but she's part of the Disney family.
Okay. Is Pocahontas? Does she Pocahontas? She doesn't count, right? No, no.
Not technically, but she's part of the Disney
See,
franchise
I'm
or the princess franchise.
I was gonna say I don't even know how you pronounce her name, Ariel. I'm just terrible, but she's just a mermaid.
She's a
So
princess.
she Ariel's a princess.
Ariel is a princess.
Oh, see, I didn't know. So what attracted you to the princesses of the Disney films?
Man, I so Princess Jasmine, who is my favorite, so she's not actually the leading lady in um
It's Aladdin,
the
right?
right. The
Right.
movie's called Aladdin, so he is the protagonist, she is the love interest. But what I love about her is growing up, she was the only one I could relate to because at that time, until Pocahontas, she was the only princess of color. See, we didn't have Tiana yet.
Right.
So being the only princess of color, I was like, oh, she's like me.
I can dig it.
Yeah. I was like, she's fierce and don't tell everybody, but I had the biggest crush on Aladdin growing up.
I hear you. I don't remember I don't remember the movie too much. I do remember the cartoon because I feel like the Aladdin cartoon, when they actually made it, it was on all the time. So I remember Aladdin, I remember Jasmine, and I remember the genie. That I remember.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I would say my favorite Disney, I don't know, Lion King or Toy Story.
Yes. I love both of those. I actually just recently watched both of those. The Lion King is good, and I was actually just telling my sister, I said, believe it or not, I said, I don't particularly care for the song Circle of Life, but it is the most relevant lesson that a child will have to learn, that unfortunately we live and then unfortunately we pass away, but it's an important lesson to learn. But I really like the villain Scar. I mean, I know he unfortunately helps his brother Mufasa meet his demise, but I really like Scar. I think he's kind of cool.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. I like the bad guys in all of the movies, but that's a separate conversation for another day. But you talk about the circle of life. It's very poetic, and this is a transition. You're also very poetic. Can we get or hear one of your poems? Can you share one with us?
Sure. So I actually wrote this a couple of hours ago, and I do this a lot. Like when I do like my interviews, I'll write something like 15, 20 minutes before I'm scheduled to go on. So the fun part about it is this is the first place you guys will be hearing it.
Oh, well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah. We strive to be our best, ready to take a stand against intolerance. We are strong, marching for inclusion. Discrimination will not win. We have a heart that is filled with joy. Let love capture us all. We rise with grace as we chase our dreams. Yes, we are differently abled. Autism, Down syndrome, and so many others that make us unique. We are athletes of the Special Olympics. And oh, yes, we are ready to compete.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
There are so many people outside of the Special Olympics community who aren't fully familiar with what it can do, or the fact that there are events all year long in their city, in their state. What would you tell people outside of the organization, outside of the family, who aren't familiar with Special Olympics? Why is it worth a visit, a volunteer? Why should they take a look?
They should take a look because we are so much more than just our disabilities. There are so many amazing athletes within the Special Olympics who they're working full-time jobs, they've completed their education, they're starting their own businesses. just so many wonderful opportunities. And they all have some form of intellectual disability, so it's like, let's dismantle this idea that if you're diagnosed with some type of intellectual disability, your life is over. Because definitely there were things that I had to learn in the Special Olympics where I was like, oh wow, really? They're capable of doing, starting their own clothing line? Absolutely. Because I was in the special education program growing up, but I didn't necessarily have folks with severe autism in my class, or I didn't necessarily have folks with Down syndrome in my class. So that was really something that I had to look at as well and say, everybody is amazing here.
Everybody's amazing. My final question to you is, do you have a favorite experience that just really stands out to you through all of this?
Special Olympics related, or just
Special Olympics related. And if there is something else that stands out, by all means, go ahead, share it.
Okay. I would have to definitely say it was the Global Ambassador training back in 2019. That's literally where athletes get the opportunity to find their voice, and they get the opportunities after they complete their programs, or after they complete the program, to, things like lobby Congress, do interviews. But I loved that experience because it was a moment for everyone to be proud and as well as in agreement with what I was saying. It wasn't something that was dismissed. Growing up, a lot of kids in my class would totally just dismiss what I was saying. So to be heard on that platform, and to have everybody appreciate what you're saying. I remember after I ended up giving my speech, I had a line of just parents and coaches and other athletes, and then even the head of the program, Tyler, who's super awesome, came up to me after and was like, we see that you wrote a book. How can we promote this on the website? We see that you've done A, B, and C. How can we help you out? So it's like it's really just, Special Olympics is a breath of fresh air, a very cool breath of fresh air. And I think anybody who tries to discredit the Special Olympics, they're just jealous because they don't get to be part of something this cool.
I hear you. Well, let me tell you something, Amanda. You are repping the Bay, you're repping Northern California, you're repping the West Coast, you're repping Special Olympics, and you really represent the best of what humanity can be. And I appreciate you coming through and sharing your message. I hope this isn't the last time that we could connect. And I certainly know there's going to be a lot of people who appreciate your story and the fact that you don't care. And I really appreciate the fact that you keep going and that you're ready and here to prove people wrong. I love that.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Amanda. There's so much to learn from her life experience and perspective. She really is a superhero that we can all learn from. The greatest example of what we can achieve without harping on limitations. And thank you for the exclusive poem. If you're not already involved with Special Olympics, or at least giving it a look, go to specialolympics.org to find a local event or program near you. There are events year-round all over the world. That means your neighborhood too. Learn how inclusivity is a benefit to all of us in society. I'm JR from CBS Sports Radio. This is the Agents of Inclusion podcast, brought to you by Special Olympics and Odyssey. New episodes drop every Wednesday, but don't just subscribe. Go outside and be inclusive.